Hamilton is known as the steel capital of Canada, producing about 60% of the country's steel. Key employers, Stelco and ArcelorMittal Dofasco, may be a mouthful to say, but the steel jobs they provide feed thousands of mouths when times are good. Supplying steel for manufacturing, appliances, construction, and the automotive sector, which is a big consumer of Hamilton's flat-rolled steel.
You imposed ad valorem duties, tariffs on imports of steel at a 25% rate.
The United States is a major market for Canadian steel, with about half of Hamilton's steel production exported there. It's an industry that has had its ups and downs. Now you would call it a down.
Making America rich again.
As fears grow that U.S. President Donald Trump's recent 25% steel tariffs, which took effect in early March, will hit hard.
In the last 20 years, it's been predominantly NDP.
Correct.
Ron Wells with the United Steelworkers Union is president of Local 1005 at Stelco. It's already a stressful time for workers. 5 months ago, Stelco was taken over by the American steel manufacturer Cleveland-Cliffs for approximately $3.5 billion. Trump's tariffs have added to the uncertainty.
All you have to do is make it in the United States.
Yeah, it's concerning. Everyone's been talking about it for the last few months. Business is a bit slow. No layoffs yet. We're hoping there won't be any. Cliffs just signed a commitment not to have layoffs for 5 years. We expect them to maintain that, but we're getting by right now.
Hamilton City Council is trying to mitigate the damage and has approved measures to help by sourcing steel from local companies for municipal projects.
Oh, it's going to impact us tremendously. The Conference Board of Canada estimates that Hamilton is the 4th largest impacted in terms of drops in our GDP. It's over $1 billion of local impact here in our economy. We have over 10,000 workers in the steel and manufacturing industries, and thousands more connected to shipping and fabrication from those steel industries. And when you look at the 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, plus you stack on the additional 25% for automotive parts, we're looking at thousands and thousands of workers feeling very precarious at this time.
Hamilton is already living through rough times. The unemployment rate was 8.2% as of last month, compared to the national rate of 6.7%. There are 1,700 fewer jobs here than the month before. Many people are homeless, living in tents and structures provided by the city. Finding affordable housing here has been a challenge for years. There's a long waiting list of about 8,000 people.
Here we have 3 buildings, 108 units. This is one of my favorites, 13 units here of housing and an adaptive reuse of an old stable.
Jeff Nevin is the CEO of Indwell. It's a charity that does affordable, supportive housing for society's vulnerable. The need is great in Hamilton.
As evidenced by my bike ride through my neighborhood yesterday, I still counted 25 tents in my neighborhood alone. So we know that many of our neighbors are still unhoused and are living in tents and under tarps, often along the escarpment, along rivers and such.
He's not sure how hard Trump's tariffs will affect upcoming projects.
Most of our materials are manufactured in Canada in the construction industry, like these buildings behind me. And so that's good news, but there's, when you drill down a little deeper, things like windows made in the Toronto area are getting their actual glass out of Ohio. And so those are the pieces that are subject to counter tariff measures, and we just don't know the impact yet on some of those things.
On the bright side, Nevin says because of a slowdown in the construction industry, there's more competition and overall costs are down.
Who's voting to stand up for Canadian workers for a change?
He's now focused on what the political parties are offering in this election campaign to boost the affordable housing stock.
So we're watching closely at what the housing platforms for each party are. We are eager to see, most parties seem to have a conversation around making things happen quicker, reducing development charges and processes quicker, and that certainly is a benefit for us. Particularly though around affordable housing, there has to be subsidy to bring down those rents below what the costs are, and that either comes in upfront capital subsidies or in ongoing rent supplements. And so we're keenly interested to see how those develop, and we're seeing that in some platforms more than others.
Want to get a sense for you, kind of how you're feeling about the election.
Well, I'm always NDP.
I appreciate that.
Hamilton Centre is considered an NDP stronghold.
But would you be okay if we put up a lawn sign?
It was held in consecutive elections by New Democrat David Christopherson.
On the one hand, you're dealing with real people and real problems, and on the other, you're dealing in the political arena.
From 2004 until 2019.
How you doing? Good, thanks.
Now Matthew Green, who has held it since 2019, is trying for a third term, stressing his deep roots to the city.
I'm somebody who's served in this community for 10 years. So I'm not new to Hamilton, right? I'm born and raised here. I've served in, as a city councillor. I'm a known quantity here. And I think in Hamilton, we elect fighters. We elect people who are going to go and fight for the working class interest without having to coattail on a party or on a leader. We're just here earning every vote that we can locally.
Green says if Canadians want to vote for Liberal leader Mark Carney, they should at least elect enough NDP MPs in Parliament who will fight for their communities and for working class people.
The decisions that are made now are going to have impacts for generations. So if there are deals being cut, we want to make sure there's workers and working class voices at the table. People here in Hamilton know about what it's like to be under financial pressure. We've always been under financial pressure. People talk about elbows up. We've never put them down. We've been fighting and struggling on the front lines of bankruptcies and American kind of interference in our production and our manufacturing. We know what it's like. We have great relationships with labor. Organized labor has been showing up for us on the ground. They get it.
Liberal leader Mark Carney was recently in Hamilton, being introduced by the candidate, Aslam Rana.
Carney, Carney, Carney.
The Liberals have their eye on this riding, hoping to scoop up new voters who believe that Carney is best positioned to deal with President Donald Trump.
Hello.
Rana is an engineer who speaks 10 languages, an asset when door knocking in search of new Liberal voters.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Overwhelming response from the residents, and I think for a long time they've been voting to other parties, but now what's going on the south of the border, so everybody is changing their mind, and they're changing their political affiliations, and now they're coming back to Liberals Party.
Right here? Amazing.
This is traditionally an NDP stronghold.
Yeah.
The NDP has held it since 2019.
Right.
And then prior to that with Dave Christopherson.
Yeah, again.
For years. I mean, it was Liberal a little bit before that, before the riding changed. But do you think you'll be able to overturn that NDP stronghold?
This is the time, honestly. Now people think that it's now or never.
Back to Union Rep Ron Wells, who says it will be never for him. He plans to stay loyal to the NDP.
The Steelworkers as an organization has always supported the NDP. Our members, they vote for any of the three parties. I myself vote for the NDP. I think it's the only party that really has the leadership to fight back.
But this voter is thinking of switching his vote, which usually goes to the New Democrats.
So I'd generally be more swayed towards NDP normally, but I may want to vote tactically, so I'm waiting to see what happens in the riding itself and how close it is come the other day. But yeah, I may vote Liberal.
And so now, why might you vote Liberal? What's on your mind?
Keeping Pierre Poilievre out of the First Minister's seat, I suppose.
And does Trump come into it too, or?
Yeah, of course, yeah, that's always in the background, and I think obviously Mark Carney's more qualified to deal with them. Yeah.
We have, I'd say, a regular volunteer roster of about 50, 60 folks.
Hayden Lawrence is a Conservative candidate. He's 27 years old, but a veteran campaign worker. This is his 22nd campaign in a multitude of provincial and municipal elections. He's now the one running in this federal campaign. He says he understands the plight of those Hamiltonians living in poverty.
Personal story is, grew up without 2 pennies to rub together. My mother worked very hard to give me everything that I have and taught me the value of hard work. You know, we grew up in housing, relied on food banks, and used organizations like United Way and community care for basic needs like winter coats and boots and hats. If it wasn't for those organizations, I never would have had a normal childhood, so to speak. And I think that's a very important background for someone to have who wants to seek office. In a riding like this, where 29,000 Hamiltonians live at or below the poverty line.
In this riding, the Liberals tend to come in second place, but the Conservatives pulled nearly 17% of the vote in the last election, and they have been even higher at times.
And what are you hearing at the door?
It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. It depends on what part of the area that we're in. Some folks are concerned about Trump tariffs. Other folks are concerned about affordability, ensuring the carbon tax doesn't come back in any way, shape, or form. Another big thing is the lack of infrastructure for those who are experiencing mental health and addictions issues in our city, and those who might have be experiencing homelessness. Those are the big things, and it spans differently from east to west, but those are the top 3 that we're hearing at the doors.
He can count on these loyal Conservative Hamiltonians who won't be swayed by any other parties.
So I'm definitely a Conservative voter, because I believe that it's when you do well, it needs to be rewarded. There is very little tax sheltering in this country and what you could do as well. Yeah.
So you've already made up your mind.
Absolutely, I did. I made my mind in the last 4 years.
Let's put it this way. If the Liberals get in again, I'm looking to move myself and my business out of country.
Really?
That's how serious it is, because this country will go even farther down the hole.
Where would you go?
That's what I'm looking into right now. Some jurisdiction that actually encourages small business.
Sandy Crawley is running for the Green Party. In the last election, just over 1,000 people voted Green. He knows his bid is definitely a long shot.
So, are you door knocking?
Not much. I knocked on every door on this street to get my signatures.
And that's the extent of your door knocking?
I got 142 signatures. Well, no, I'm not, because I don't have signs, I don't have literature. I mean, I'm the classic paper candidate.
Oh.
You know, except that I ran here provincially and I did pretty well in 2022. So that's why my leftover signs. I don't have any signs that are actually official.
Okay, well, so far you're really selling me. So,
okay.
So what is your pitch if you can't even make it out the door?
My pitch is that we need as many Green votes as possible so that we can have a few resources so that we can compete a little bit.
I think they're probably his base.
This political scientist says the key unknown is what will happen to the NDP vote in Hamilton Centre.
I mean, I think when we look at what's happening nationally, the NDP is in a very difficult situation, and so I think a lot of the discourse locally is, does an NDP member of Parliament survive? And is the NDP in a way well enough rooted in this community that even if nationally their numbers are down, there's a lot of support for the local member of Parliament and an appreciation of the role of the NDP in Parliament in terms of being a voice for people who are otherwise not listened to very much by the other parties.
So that's the question. Will the voters here stick to the NDP's Matthew Green, who says he knows the riding so well he's ready to hit the ground running the day after the campaign? Or will they vote Liberal out of fears of Donald Trump's constant tariff turmoil? If they do, it'll put an end to this NDP stronghold. Now to the riding of Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Niagara Falls, world-renowned for its stunning beauty. Tourists come here from everywhere.
I'm from India, but I live in Germany.
Okay.
And
how long are you going to spend here in Niagara Falls?
Today and also a bit of tomorrow.
Puerto Rico to New York, and rent a car and drive here.
Tourism is what makes this town tick. The restaurants, the casinos, the activities, all revolve around the big draw, the majestic falls. Nearby is the Rainbow Bridge, with quick access to the United States. There used to be a lot of back and forth traffic, an easy drive between friendly countries. But Canadians are staying away in droves.
thousands have no desire anymore to cross into the United States.
Would you have crossed over at another time?
Yeah, we used to, but now it's uncertain a little bit, unless we have to. Let's see. I'm sure most often than not, nothing would happen, but just why take the risk?
Americans are still coming. This woman is in Canada visiting from Montana.
What do you think of the fact that a lot of Canadians are not really keen to go to the States right now?
I think that's entirely fair.
Fair?
Yeah.
Really?
I wouldn't either if I lived here.
But you're American.
Yeah.
If we make it in the United States, we don't need it to be made in Canada. We'll have the jobs. That's why Canada should be our 51st state.
Since U.S. President Donald Trump launched his trade war, the number of Canadians from Niagara Falls traveling to the U.S., a trip that was always considered just a hop, skip, and a jump to the other side, has plummeted.
I definitely won't be going down there anytime soon.
Is that something you would normally do, though?
Yeah, we go to the U.S., travel there all the time, but we won't be setting foot there while he's in power.
Dolores Fabiano is head of the Niagara Falls Chamber of Commerce.
Our members are really concerned about that. We are a border community, and so for us, maybe it cuts a little deeper. If you were born and raised in a border community, you understand that really there is no border. It's seamless. You have friends and family on both sides. You have your favorite restaurants, your favorite things to do on both sides, and both Canadians and Americans go back and forth effortlessly with ease and comfort. And unfortunately, that's changed.
So do you have any idea how much it's changed? What's happened?
Well, car traffic is definitely down. So compared to March of 2024, or March numbers for 2025 are down. We have 3 crossings here in Niagara Falls, and it's anywhere from 15 to 25%.
So while Canadians in this border community are steering clear of the States, the hope is that many Canadians from coast to coast will simply opt to stay here in their own country, which means more may choose Niagara Falls for a staycation.
So these tariffs, obviously, in terms of the tourism industry, could it be a bright spot in the sense that you might actually get more tourists here, more Canadians coming here that wouldn't have come here?
Yeah, absolutely. You always have to look at the bright side, and that's definitely a bright side. I think Canada is a beautiful country. We have lots to explore, and I think it's a fantastic thing for Canadians to look at home and learn something new about their own country.
The riding of Niagara Falls is not only about the falls, but it includes Niagara-on-the-Lake, with its quaint shops, beautifully preserved 19th century buildings, and the Shaw Theatre Festival. It's surrounded by vineyards and wineries, including Inniskillen, known as the #1 ice wine producer in the world. The U.S. is a big customer.
We are rooted here.
Del Rollo represents Inniskillen Wines. He now has to factor in possible tariffs and counter-tariffs when doing his business plan.
It's a pretty scary time, right? And the way I've been characterizing it with friends around the dinner table is it's turbulent. So not knowing what's happening on a daily basis, it gives a huge amount of uncertainty for us. So we do have tariffs already on some of the inputs. There's things like cardboard boxes and so on that we're always having to pay 25% tariffs on. There's the potential of glass, in the next round of tariffs. That would be devastating for our industry because, our company buys all of our glass from the U.S. We don't have any glass suppliers in Canada anymore. They've all shut down their glass blowing factories for wine bottles. So that's a huge concern and would be debilitating for us. So it is a very concerning time. And mostly I'd also say the macroeconomic change of a possible recession. Wine is, especially ice wine, is a luxury product, and people are going to be trading down as they need to save their money as they're worried about expenses. And that would be hard on us in our industry.
So these are all barrels that we generally buy. They're all French oak. In here we have some American oak.
Arterra Wines owns Inniskillen. Winemaker Nicholas Gazook ordered oak barrels in advance because they are made in the U.S. He's concerned they could get swept up in counter tariffs.
We pre-ordered about 80 barrels this year, about 3 months ahead of our normal timeline where we would normally be ordering barrels in May. We ordered them in January just to make sure that our supply chain wasn't affected and to make sure that maybe they weren't increased by 10, 15, 20%. Not that that was the case or is the case right now, but it could be in the future. So we want to make sure that we're getting these expensive specialized goods in on time.
And that would be through counter tariffs, right? Because they're coming up from the States. It's really about stuff going down there. But if they impose counter tariffs, you never know, right?
We don't know what the next 6 months is going to hold for us. And that's 6 months is very important for us because we're going to be going into our growing season and starting to produce these upcoming vintages for 2020, 2025 this year.
Businesses and voters are trying to figure out just how to navigate this new, confusing reality and make choices in an election that is overshadowed by President Donald Trump. This voter says the big issues are being overlooked.
Has this whole Trump thing made any difference to you? Or?
Oh, it's made a huge difference. It's totally taken over the election and all the other issues, that housing and jobs and everything, food costs, is all taken away, distracted by Trump.
This location right in here, that corner.
Tony Baldinelli is a Conservative candidate for Niagara Falls and Niagara-on-the-Lake. He's been the MP here since 2019. He's trying for another term, his third. He says the election is about more than Trump. It's about offering alternatives to failed Liberal policies.
So what are you hearing at the door?
It's really about affordability. After 10 lost years of Liberal policies, which have taxed food, punished work, and doubled the cost of housing, people are looking for solutions to the concerns they face. Just the other day, we've seen that food inflation had hit a 50-year high. People are struggling. So from day one of this campaign, we've talked about solutions to some of the issues people are facing. For example, on the first day, we talked about that 15% income tax cut, which would save a couple about $1,900. For young people who are looking to get into the housing market, we've talked about eliminating the GST on new homes. That could save up to $65,000 on the cost of a new home. So those are some of the issues that we're talking about to address the affordability issue.
There is a strong Conservative base in this riding.
Member for Niagara Falls, order.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why this is always so difficult for the Liberals.
Rob Nicholson held it from 2004 until 2019. He was a minister in Stephen Harper's government. But the riding also has a Liberal foothold. Gary Pillitteri was the MP from 1993 to 2004. Pillitteri owned a vineyard in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
We've got some new literature
Oh,
that
that's
just came
right,
in,
the Canada Strong. Okay.
To go along with our piece here
Amazing.
as well.
Love it.
The Liberal candidate now is Andrea Kaiser. She also owns a wine company which specializes in Ontario-made wines. It's the third time she's run against Tony Baldinelli. Kaiser says this race is definitely a contrast to the previous two.
Are you seeing any differences?
Yes. Oh, lots of excitement at the doors. People are, well, I should say it's a serious moment, but there's a lot of excitement about Mark Carney. But definitely feeling at the doors that there is concern for the country. I mean, I don't think we've ever had an election where we've had to face such a consequential question with the tariffs and Donald Trump. So there is a sense of seriousness, but at the same time, a sense of excitement about Mark Carney as the leader.
Kaiser says she's hearing about strategic voting. Some NDP supporters talk about switching to her camp in order to help Mark Carney win.
I think people just want somebody that can really stand up to Donald Trump, and they've seen that in Mark Carney.
We're going to go knock on some doors in like a neighborhood the NDP has won for the last 20 years.
NDP candidate Shannon Mitchell says she hasn't heard New Democrats say they're going to vote Liberal over worries about Trump.
In the media, we're hearing a lot about Trump and trade and tariffs. At the doors, I'm hearing a lot about healthcare, housing, and affordability. Those issues seem to be still top of mind. They were top of mind before Trump was elected and will certainly remain top of mind, I think, long after he's left.
I have a legal background,
Yeah,
so
I read that. Yeah,
this is all new. It's all new territory for me.
The Green Party candidate is Celia Taylor. She says she's hearing a lot about a lack of doctors and affordable housing.
I believe that going door to door and talking and letting them know that there's a Green Party and being a representative of that, I can relate to a lot of people. You know, I have trouble paying my rent. I have trouble paying my bills. I'm a single parent of 3, raised 3 kids on my own my whole life. So I can relate to the people when they tell me their stories. It's my story. Their story's my story. So I feel that this platform could be a good representation for me to speak on their behalf.
Political scientist Peter Grafe says Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake is a riding to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting in that last time the People's Party of Canada got about 8% of the vote in the riding. So there's a considerable vote share there that could swing back to the Conservatives in this riding, with the People's Party being much less strong and the vaccine issues in retreat. On the other hand, the NDP was also quite strong with 17% last time, and if their vote is collapsing towards the Liberals, you know, that too could sway things. So I'd say that's a very close riding.
This is the time of year where they get out there and they get the vines ready. You can see how they've tied the vines along the guide wires that are there.
Back at Enniskillen and the uncertainty over tariffs, there is a bright side with the growing patriotism sparked by Trump's trade war.
I think the industry is pretty optimistic because there is this nationalism that's going on right now, this buy Canadian. That we've never seen it like that before. So the idea that we have more space on the liquor board shelves gives us a chance to grow our market share. So we're going to capitalize on this in a very, very big way.
And the hope that whatever party gets elected works to finally eliminate all interprovincial trade barriers.
There's a real opportunity to be able to have someone who's vacationing here buy some wine and then ship it, and then if they want to buy more of it, they just call us up and we ship it directly to their home. So
you can't do that now.
Right now, there's only a couple provinces that allow that, so we're hoping that they all open up, and it creates a real opportunity and a new outlet for us to grow our domestic market share in the country.
Many voters in Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake have made up their minds.
I just think that we don't want to see Poilievre here and have any sort of Trump idealism coming up into our country.
I'll follow a conservative vote of right now. Yeah. So as a senior, I can't get. We're all on fixed income. I can't see us being taxed over and over again.
And you'll think you're going to do better with the Conservatives now?
I believe so. Yeah. I think in the past I have done better with Conservatives.
So you've kind of made up your mind?
Oh yes, definitely yes.
I think I'll vote for the person that I think has more experience and has more knowledge than some people lead on to be.
And do you know who that is?
I'm not going to tell you, young lady, but you...
Round 3 of this political trilogy, the déjà vote between Tony Baldinelli and Andrea Kaiser, two well-oiled machines at it again. Both sides, of course, are optimistic.
When I run in an election, it's all about explaining to people why it is they should be voting for me. All politics is local. I got into politics to help people. And so my objective in 2019, 2021, and 2025 is talking to the residents, neighbors, and friends, explaining to them why I believe I'm the best candidate that can address their issues.
Third time,
well,
what are you
third
noticing?
time's a charm.
To be seen on April 28th. It's a showdown that's being watched very closely in this border community. Julie Van Dusen for CPAC.